Joining me now, Kevin Bishop, who spent more than 25 years as Senator Graham's communications director, and Lee Holmes, who served as chief counsel for Senator Graham. Lee, it's great to have you here. Kevin, great to have you with us. I appreciate you both. I want to play for you both something that doesn't happen very often in the United States Senate. The Majority Leader, John Thune, he is not a taciturn person, but he holds his emotions pretty close to the vest. But he was unable to do that today. Let's play some sound from the Senate floor.
I will miss Lindsey's friendship, Mr. President, more than I can say. I am comforted by the knowledge that in the end, he has just changed his address. And that one day, Mr. President, we will laugh together again.
That's a reference to something that Billy Graham said about himself, that when he dies, he will still be living. He'll just be in a different address. That's the other Graham that is referred to. Lee, I want to start with you. I'm sorry, but I appreciate you coming in. What's the Senate going to miss now that Lindsey Graham's no longer there?
Well, I think the most important thing they're going to miss is exactly why John Thune was choking up there. It's Lindsey's compassion, his ability to engage with humans, his humor, his true caring for the people around him, the people of the United States, and the policy that he delivers. I think beyond that, they are going to miss the person who knows D.C., who knows the Senate, who knows the House, who knows all the players, where the linchpins are, and how to move them. And, of course, he knows the policy, too. But he was a master at understanding exactly where the linchpin was and how to move it.
Kevin, 25 years is an awfully long time. You had a lot of experience with Lindsey Graham. He didn't really need a communications director, meaning he didn't need to be told how to communicate, and he often engaged with reporters before you even knew about it. I benefited from that. Almost every Capitol Hill reporter benefited from one time or another. Summarize your relationship with the senator.
My job was just to make sure Lindsey knew everything that was going on in the world. He knew how to say it, and he knew what to say. But that's had to keep him up to date. Lindsey was a force of nature. The guy was just a tremendous. I think he was as sharp as a tack, if you just wanted to look at it. He knew how to talk. He knew how to talk to people. I've always told people one of the beauties of Lindsey Graham is Lindsey could talk to a president or a prime minister, a king or a queen, or he could talk to the guy down at Chick-fil-A. That's just sort of who he was. I mean, he had just a sharp mind, a sharp tack, and he had a great sense of looking at the political landscape and what he needed, where it was going to be in a couple of months. He was a great tactician, but most importantly, Lindsey was a great guy. I think that's the thing that most people didn't know about him. And the reason you see such an outpouring of support, Lindsey was he's just one of the most wonderful people you'll ever get a chance to meet and just hang around with.
Kevin and Lee, I'm going to ask you both this question, but Kevin, you're going to go first because you've been with Senator Graham longer. When people look at Lindsey Graham's life in politics, they say, wait a minute, John McCain, then Donald Trump? Answer that for me.
Well, anybody, I'll look at you got to look at the Strom Thurmond example first and foremost. Anybody who's in politics for a lengthy period of time, probably more than 20 years, circumstances change. The way you view issues changes. Issues come about. Issues go away. You know, that would be like saying the same music or TV shows that we watch today are the ones we were watching in 1995. It's not necessarily the way it works. You know, times change. Some of the issues that are big today that people are talking about, if somebody were to come back in 2055 or 2045, you know, it'll change. That's just it. If you're anybody who's in politics, going back to Senator Strom Thurmond, who had one of the greatest changes in time, you know, times change. Senator Thurmond went from a segregationist to the person who hired the first African-American from the Deep South in the U.S. Senate. That's the way times change.
Lee?
Well, Major, I noticed in your opening statement you mentioned elasticity, and this was, I think,
and that was not an insult. It's an important aspect of politics. It happens.
Right. I understand, but I think the important thing to remember about Lindsey is he never forgot his job, which was to represent the people of South Carolina. And that's why he survived so many elections. And the people of South Carolina loved President Trump. And
emphatically.
And, you know, I saw a recent, I won't include the expletive, but I saw a recent quote from Lindsey, where he said, if you don't want me working with the president to make the world a better place, I really don't give up.
Yeah.
And that's the attitude that he brought to it.
And that's reflective of what the people in South Carolina, what the nation writ large voted for.
That's right.
And Senator Graham's like, that's been decided. So I've got one or two choices, out or in. Exactly. And Kevin, you know this as well as anyone. He always wanted to be in, whatever the room was.
Yeah, that was Lindsey. But listen here, I think it also, one thing that people don't know is that, Lindsey and Trump became personal friends. And we had some very close friends of both of us who said back in 2016, 2017, after Trump becomes president, they said, listen here, we think you guys, if you got to know each other, you'd probably like each other. We think you're both very similar. And sure enough, they went and played golf and they hit it off and they had a lot in common. They had a shared love language of golf, to be honest with you. And they liked to play with it. And then they got to where they both had wicked senses of humor. They're funny, they like to tell stories, tell jokes, and they became good friends. And that's just the way. That's the way, honestly, life works sometimes. And I'm not sure why politics people made such a big deal out of working the same way.
Lee, I'm going to give you the last word because it is assumed by many Americans on the outside that there is no way to glue anything together in a partisan and deeply divided Senate. But more than once, Lindsey Graham found certain ways to do that. How did he do that?
He did that by relationships more than anything. It goes back to the travel that he did with members, the meals that he shared with them, and his time here understanding the policy. And so he could see the places that he could build a coalition, and he knew exactly who to go to do it. And it's a major loss with Lindsey's death. And
when I talked to Dick Durbin, Democrat from Illinois, yesterday, he said Lindsey's word was always good. That also matters in the Senate, even this day. Absolutely. Lee Holmes, Kevin Bishop, I appreciate the time, gentlemen. Thank you both very much. Paul Kane, who covers Congress for NOTUS, joins me now. PKs, you are oftenly referred to by those who know and have affection for you, and I certainly count myself in that cadre. This is a big moment in the Senate, as big as I can remember in the last decade or so.
Yes, it's about the institution. It's about a guy who loved being in the institution of the Senate. And, he's part of like a last sort of connection to an era that is fading further and further away. Like I first probably intensely covered him in 2005 when in his sort of Batman and Robin routine with McCain, McCain was working with a gang of 14, 7 Democrats, 7 Republicans, to try and neutralize this big blow-up, they called it a nuclear option war in the Senate over judicial nominations. And, Graham, we didn't have him on our radar right away as somebody who would be involved, because at that point we still thought he was still pretty conservative, even though he backed McCain in 2000 for the presidential campaign. Then, boom, he was there. He was helping. Look, he was cracking jokes. The man knew how to be funny and how to help grease the wheels for deal making. Things ebbed and flowed. Kevin described it well. He did drive Democrats mad. There were points where they backed away from him and were like, all right, I can't deal with him now for a little while. But they always came back. It was something about him that he never, somebody could curse him out and tell him that he just crossed them on a deal over Ukraine and border, as happened in February of 2024. And then those same people, like Dick Blumenthal, went back to working with him on a Russia sanctions bill, which Lindsey kept telling them, we're going to get Trump. He's going to be on board. He's going to be on board. And Trump never got on board. Well, lo and behold, on Friday, they feel like they just got Trump on board. He talked to Blumenthal on a phone call, and it was the last time that they ever spoke. And Blumenthal is now absolutely gutted. And so, yeah, he was a force inside this institution. And those characters are just fading from the Senate. We're not getting those type of people anymore.
And, Paul, it's going to be important for the White House to try to figure out a way to get things communicated and worked out in the Senate Republican conference now that there's no Lindsey Graham. And Lindsey was very good, both publicly and privately within the cloakroom, helping communicate where the White House was at and where it was trying to get to.
Yeah, his last official title was Budget Committee Chair, but he often would joke that he didn't really care much about the Budget Committee. And instead, his real role for the last 2 years and sort of in that 2024 campaign and in the year and a half since the inauguration was Trump informal advisor, especially on national security, where he kept trying to nudge him on Iran and Russia toward that traditional Reagan, Bush, Cheney, McCain type of worldview. But he was also an important glue between Trump and John Thune, the majority leader. Thune and Lindsey Graham go way back. They were in the House together in the 90s. They both ran for Senate in 2002. Thune lost, would join him 2 years later. And so Lindsey spoke the language that they both spoke, but they often didn't talk together, Thune and Trump. But Lindsey was the guy who was translating back and forth to try and prevent that relationship from really blowing up.
Paul Kane with NOTUS. Remember, NOTUS News of the U.S. I appreciate your time, sir, as always. Thank you.
Thank you, Major.